Now, we've all had really bad experiences with chatbots, but most of us have actually also had good experience with the chatbots, and we don't remember because it just made the experience more seamless. So it wasn't an impediment. So I do believe that B2B companies should have chatbots on their website if there are predictable pathways and activities that people want to do on the website. But it needs to be something that you've tested manually and you're getting, no more than like 2% of people having any kind of negative reaction. And as long as you understand what like 80 to 90% of people are looking for on their website, you can actually use automation to speed people through that process and to give them a more responsive experience.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender Show. I'm Dacia.
And I'm Daisy.
Now, today we are talking about B2B marketing automation, what to automate, how to automate, and how to automate now. Now, I think this is so fun. We are big proponents of technology as an enhancer, as an optimization to your current efforts. But I think the really big thing that I'm glad to be talking about this is because technology is not a fix-all. It is not magic fairy dust that all of a sudden makes everything bloom and grow and harvest sales qualified leads. I mean, it is something that solidifies process and best practices, but not a solution to a problem.
Yes, and that's why we'll be talking about B2B marketing automation that is both efficient and effective, because you can make a really bad process more efficient. It doesn't help you reach your goals.
Yeah. So, when I think about why do we help clients implement automation, obviously the first one, of course, is time. Marketing automation can really help get more efficiency, more productivity, and more value out of your team and out of your brand when done well. So that time component where you're taking your salespeople and your marketing people up the value chain is absolutely a huge benefit to B2B marketing automation.
And the second one, and this is no surprise to anyone who's done any kind of business process automation, robotic process automation, just reducing human error. As long as you've built the process correctly, it's one way to do that. But I think my favorite use for automation is that it reduces the chronic fatigue that comes with marketing and sales.
I love this one.
When you have to have touch after touch after touch after touch after touch. I mean, even if you're someone who has a lot of discipline and a lot of willpower, it gets tiring doing the same thing over and over again just to get the basic number of steps in place to have a conversation. So I love that it helps alleviate some of that. So there's more enjoyment that you can have in your day.
Exactly. And we talk about 7 to 13 touches to get a marketing qualified lead, 5 to 12 points of sales follow-up. Five is the average minimum to get a closed deal. And, both of us having been in sales, it's exhausting when you are following up with a prospect. Time number 3, time number 4, and you're getting ghosted. You start taking it personally, and it can be very difficult to stay in the saddle and continue to bring a lot of value when you're like, I don't even know what to say now. Like, I've reached out to them 5-6 times at this point, but it's absolutely critical. So, where do you want to start? We've got a long list of what we should automate, and I love this part. And so we're going to give some best practices, but where do you start? Like, when people are thinking about what marketing should or sales, what should I automate? Like, what are you thinking?
I always start with nurture when it comes to B2B marketing automation, because it is the thing that you're going to have to do over and over and over and over again. You need to figure out how to do it well, and then you need to make it easy to do well and to do consistently. So marketing automation, it usually starts with things like email, when you're going to need additional touch points as you go along. And especially if you're doing things like logic branching, like, okay, if they take this action on the email, then they get this follow-up email. And if they don't click on anything, they get a different one, or they get a reminder email, all of that stuff where you don't need to be in the weeds figuring out, who clicked on what in an email. That's absolutely something that you should be automating.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one, you should be automating your ads. Now, there's a lot of complexity in this, and I always do recommend working with a very talented digital marketer when you're thinking about this. But as an example, you can automate ads based on a user's behavior. So did they download something? Is there appropriate retargeting that then follows them online that adds value because what they were already interested in. Now, I do want to warn, this is not a set it and forget it type of scenario. You want somebody constantly watching the data and optimizing, but this is a great example of how you can really get a ton of value out of your human digital marketer's brain and let the technology do what it needs to do in order to speed up the optimization process.
Absolutely. So the third thing I'd like to talk about automating is reminders or like specific triggered actions or follow-up items. So we see this all the time in e-commerce retail. If you leave something in a cart and you didn't buy it, then you're going to get a text or you're going to get an email or you're going to get 3 emails saying, oh, hey, you forgot something, come back and buy it. On the B2B side, there are a lot of ways that you can actually implement reminders into your nurture follow-up or into your sales process. One client that I have, they actually needed to start implementing simple survey questions at predictable inflection points in a client project.
Yeah.
So instead of being like, well, we've got this 12-month long implementation process, and at the end of that, maybe we'll ask them how it went. It was, we're sending them a monthly email with a specific task associated with it. We know they're going to open the email. We're going to ask a 1-question survey.
Yeah.
So they could improve each touch point, each piece of the user experience, and they were training also their clients to give them that feedback at the time when either the pain or the delight was highest.
I love it. Another example I've got is we've got a client who is in B2B, but they do have an e-commerce component to their sales process. So it's interesting because technology has to align with this very long sales cycle in commercial design. And so these are not put something in a cart and buy it. I mean, they're based on projects and, massive construction deadlines and installation deadlines and all of this other stuff. And so I love the prompts though, because sometimes pricing does expire. Or if a project has been open or a cart has been open for 3 months, is it because the project died and they forgot to close the cart? Is it because it got delayed? And so those automations that are appropriate, where it simply says, it's been this long, please click one button to keep your cart open or to validate. And so then these little push notifications to them, if you will, it's not exactly what they are, but kind of, that they're helpful and appropriate with where that buyer is. And then it can help you clean up your pipeline, because we do not want like stale, dead carts making it look like you've got this huge pipeline when actually it's only 25% of that.
Yep, exactly. What's next?
Oh gosh, social media. Please be automating your social media. I know that for your favorite influencers, it looks like they're like, hey guys, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. They're not. That's not in real time. They're bulk creating content, and then they're using technology and their team members to appropriately automate the scheduling functions and some of those personal touches. Like there's some really great companies in both B2C and B2B that are using those responses in a really respectful and appropriate way, even in DMs and follow-up automation. So social media is a huge one where you can massively expand your share of voice and maintain high brand consistency and quality without killing your schedule.
There are a lot of tools you can use for automating your social media posting. Our social media specialist, Samaria Boyd, uses Metricool for a lot of our clients. Some of my clients use Sprout. Hootsuite is one that's been around for a really long time. And of course, HubSpot and other CRMs will often have social media posting tools. Here's the thing, just do it. Just pick one and start using it. There will be no social media scheduling tool that's perfect and does all the things, but guess what? It's going to make it where you actually do get content out there, and that's much more important.
I love it. Another one that we have on the list is data reporting. Now, for me, like the automations might be, they're here and we're going to use a tool like Zapier to let these two places talk, and that data shows up in a spreadsheet or whatever business intelligence BI software you might have. Others for me might be as simple as pre-setting a report that auto-generates out of your CRM or auto-generates out of your marketing automation tool so that it shows up on the day that you have pre-committed to looking at the numbers, to thinking through what's happening, and to really analyzing what's happening inside of your marketing or inside your sales pipeline. So those are some of mine. Do you have any additional data ones that are kind of the low-lying fruit of reporting?
So I would say, obviously, your CRM is where a lot of your reporting lives. We also use SEMrush. So
Yeah.
I like to have those reports being run consistently, but also website audits.
Oh,
So
yeah.
sometimes it's not just let's track what's going on. Are we going up? Are we going down? But things that you should be automating also include if something is going wrong and you need to know sooner rather than later. So even though not everybody would be looking at a website audit every month, because they're used to saying, oh, well, we look at our Google Ads, we look at our Google Analytics. Adding that into the mix can really help maintain your website health because you're seeing trends that might be related to algorithms that Google is not telling you they're changing because they do that a lot. Or it might be, plugins that have stopped working or other things that have changed. Especially if you have multiple people who are touching your website, just automating the reporting around the health of your website is more.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is a little bit of a random one, but I'd be remiss in not at least bringing it up. There's some compliance elements to marketing too, where if there's an automated report, email is one of them, that they continue to try to tighten up on that. And so if there's any compliance in your industry around marketing or any of your data, it's a really great one to make sure that there's an automation. So the next one, which is lead follow-up and lead qualification, is one of my favorites. The reason I love automating lead follow-up and lead qualification is because you are partnering with your prospects. So here's an example of what I mean. Sending them an email to confirm a status, to ask them if they want to schedule an appointment, but to have an appropriate high value next step where that person is like, yes, I'm interested, or even where that form is continuing to be built. And so they are auto selecting who they are. What is their title or what is the size of their organization? And so these need to be in combination with something that answers what's in it for me with the buyer. But buyers love to be able to control a process on their own. And so if you're delivering value in the sales process, this is a really great opportunity for you to get ahead of the curve, really understand who you're talking to once they book a call, because they have told you, they've self-identified, this is who I am and this is what's most important to me. And it can really help you create an amazing customer experience.
And lead scoring really falls into this category of lead qualification.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, lead scoring is a more advanced technique. If you have a handful of leads per month, you're not at the point where lead scoring makes sense. But if you have 100 leads that are coming in a month and you have like 3 salespeople to cover that many leads, they can't be doing 5 to 12 touches.
Yeah.
Even with automation on all of those as effectively as they need to. So being able to identify at what point is someone really crossing that threshold from marketing qualified to sales qualified. If you've choreographed a buyer's journey where they can put their hand up and show you their intent, but using automation to determine lead scoring and to determine next steps that keep people who are moving to the top of that list in the eyesight of the sales team is also a really great way to make progress. And that marries really your automated nurture with your reporting, because those two things work hand in hand with lead scoring.
And I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but the lead scoring one is exciting because this starts to lead to the healthy activity metrics for salespeople, right? So, okay, great. Meetings came in, sales qualified leads came in where they're booking a call or there's an automatic. But there are a number of times when we're watching our data and someone has a lead score of 181 or something, which is very high, but they haven't booked a call with us. It is appropriate at that point to choreograph what's the follow-up, what's the appropriate follow-up, because they are communicating through their action. We are really paying attention to you. We are really following. So whether it's a fan, somebody who doesn't want to buy, but can be an influencer, or if it is a buyer, both of these are incredibly valuable. So thinking through, okay, what do we do? The automation might be, automate a task to the rep so that a lead score triggers, hey, you need to pay attention to this person or take an appropriate action, or it could be something to them on the website, chatbot, that type of thing. But I love this one because it just translates to the human.
It can also be a competitor sometimes.
That's
if
true.
They're like, I want to see all of your stuff.
That's true. It means you're doing it well.
Yeah,
right.
it is.
All right. So that kind of transitions me to the next one. So it was next on our list. I'm so glad. And it is sales tasks. So, the marketing experience for a buyer is not necessarily separate from the sales experience for a buyer. They're in a single buyer's journey. So how they found you, referral, ad, sales rep, trade show, lots of people don't remember, and they actually, more importantly, just don't care. And so when you can make sure that there's high alignment, where there's healthy marketing activity happening with a prospect and it's triggering sales activity. The other one is if a buyer has gone quiet on a salesperson, your marketing automation can still see that they might be active on a website or might be active with some tools that they've downloaded, or some, if you have automation inside of your sales proposals, there's a lot of insights that you can develop, and you can remind that salesperson that this is not a latent or a dead or a cold lead, but somebody who just had a longer sales timeline. And so this is a great one to really make sure that no leads get flushed through the cracks. At the Marketing Blender, we have fractional CMOs and outsourced marketing teams to drive your success. The two most common problems that we are approached about is how do we break revenue plateaus and accelerate success, or how do we attribute marketing to revenue impact? And the answer is that we build a system, because your marketing should be driving revenue, it should be driving your reputation, and it should be driving resilience. If you want to learn more, check out themarketingblender.com.
We'll talk about chatbots next in terms of B2B marketing automation.
Yeah.
Now, we've all had really bad experiences with chatbots.
Yep.
But most of us have actually also had good experience with the chatbots, and we don't remember because it just made the experience more seamless. So it wasn't an impediment. So I do believe that B2B companies should have chatbots on their website if there are predictable pathways and activities that people want to do on the website. So this goes back to looking at your flow charts through your Google Analytics. Where do people tend to go next? What's the thing they tend to need to do next? So if you can build a thoughtful journey through a chatbot script, that's a really great way to automate the user journey. For a lot of people, it feels faster, even if they could go click around and find the thing that they wanted, to have someone just pop up, even if it's a chatbot, and say, what can I help you find? And as long as you understand what like 80 to 90% of people are looking for on their website, you can actually use automation to speed people through that process and to give them a more responsive experience. However, if you're putting a chatbot on a website for your agenda instead of your user's agenda, that's when it's going to backfire.
Agreed. And, speaking of backfiring, okay, this one has to come up. It's, do you automate direct outreach? And so when we're talking about automating direct outreach, we mean somebody gets an email from a sales rep, their real email address, not sales at or something like that, and it sounds just like that person. Is that appropriate? Yes, if you do it with intensely high care and extremely diligent process mapping to make sure that you are being respectful to the recipient of that email and protecting the brand of that salesperson. So this could be as simple as, okay, write a really great email and have it ready for the sales rep to send out one-to-one. But that's not really an automation. So when we're talking about automating something, where it happens automatically without any thought, I want this to have run manually so many times, where we never change the script, we never change the process, we always know what this is going to look like, because this can backfire so much, especially if you are interfering with a human-to-human relationship. It needs to grease the wheels and just needs to be so thoughtful, because this one makes me nervous.
It does. And that goes for social media outreach as well. There are scripting tools that you can use for that and automation that you can use, but it needs to be something you've tested manually, and you're getting, no more than like 2% of people having any kind of negative reaction. And in fact, you can't be satisfied with most people just ignoring it. It needs to be consistently getting a positive, proactive, oh, wow, it's great to hear from you. Thanks for sending me that. It needs to be consistently a positive response before you should risk automating some kind of direct message outreach.
I couldn't agree more. And the only other one that makes me more nervous than this is review management. So if you're the type of company that gets just tons and tons of reviews online, I think sending an automated message that says, thank you so much for your gift of feedback, but it has to trigger a human being looking at that, responding, and actually engaging. I like using automation to make sure that people know vigilance around feedback is important, as basically a core value, if you will. But this makes me nervous because, people are gifting feedback, even if it's negative. And it's really important to be real with this one.
Honestly, if I could get all of my B2B clients to solicit feedback often enough to make automation something worth talking about, that would be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one other thing I want to bring up about automation when we're starting to shift to best practices is simple. Keep it simple. Simplicity is your best friend, because there is a big dramatic difference between process documenting something and it looks so clean and tidy on the paper, and then you hit send or launch. And there's a million different reasons that this can happen. The data wasn't validated. The process wasn't real to begin with. Because everything in a workflow document looks clean and tidy and impenetrable. And we're in the middle of a massive cleanup for a company that spent too much money on some very complex automations, and it created some real big collateral damage for their sales reps that they're having to work out. And it's just painful because it's a wonderful company with an amazing brand reputation. And for the process automation to have hurt them, from a money standpoint as well as a brand standpoint, is just painful. But it's shocking that the consultants that they worked with did not insist on data validation, process validation, and beta testing. There was zero mini bets, zero. And they could have done it with small select groups and just told the truth about the automation, and it could have up-leveled their brand instead of setting them way behind.
It could. I think the temptation is to say, well, marketing automation means I can take something simple and I can make it more complex. No. You can take something hard and make it easy. You can take something slow and make it fast. Those are the things you need to learn first, and then you can add, in thoughtful steps, more complexity to your automations.
Exactly. So, in summary, it's basically, what do you not automate? And that is number one. In marketing automation, you do not automate a process that is broken, or worse, a process that doesn't even exist except in your mind or except in a perfect world and how you want it to be. You can only automate processes that are proven to work and to move a buyer along their journey. You cannot automate something not real.
I'd say the second one is that you should not automate a marketing process where it is the human touch that gives it its value. So, for example, if you were reaching out to a client to check in emotionally, see how are you doing, what's going on with your business, you wouldn't robocall them.
Yeah.
Think about what is the value of what you're offering, because if the value in your mind is just, well, I need to reach out to this person this many times, but that's not adding value for your customer or for your prospect, then you need to think about, hey, maybe we should do less, but do it more intentionally and more in a high impact human way.
And my third one is just a real close coattail on what you just said. Don't automate the fun, creative stuff. It's great for your team. It's great for the person receiving that. Now, when I say don't automate the fun and creative stuff, I don't mean make your automations boring and horrible to receive, right? If you have a very fun, upbeat brand voice, your tone should always match that, or whatever truth you actually are. So it's not that you have to kill the fun. It's don't steal the fun from your team, and don't steal the fun and creativity from the human connection when you're choosing automation.
I think there's that saying making the rounds, I don't want AI to make art so I can go do the dishes. I want AI to do the dishes so I can go make some art, right?
Oh my gosh, I have not heard that, and I'm so stealing that. I love that. Agreed. So you have a great matrix that you're recommending for this, and I love it because we use this matrix in other places with our clients, and especially internally with where do we start. So walk everybody through, how do you prioritize what to automate?
Sure, and shout out to Jean Lewis, one of our fractional CMOs, for introducing me to this particular matrix, because now I use it for everything, including my personal life. So how to prioritize: you have impact and you have lift. So you've got effort and you've got, the benefit. So if you map those into the different things that you could automate, you've got things that are low lift and high impact. And those tend to be, number one, email campaigns, simple email campaigns, not the complicated ones, but it's the very first thing that I do with any client that has not been emailing their marketing qualified leads or that has not been emailing their customers, is we put automated emails in place for them. I would say basic reporting is the next one.
Yep.
So
Great
if
example.
you're not automating, looking at your data, collecting your data and making sense of it, you need to start with that. And then lead follow-up.
Yeah.
Because, you're not going to make progress without that. And then the ad campaign. So things like building workflows where you have retargeting.
I love it. And those are just fun ones because they bring a lot of value to both your team and the recipients of this. And it's the perfect example of lower lift, higher impact. And so that's where it's appropriate. Now, for me, the opposite spectrum of this, where it could be high or low impact, you just don't know because of the complexity, but it's a super high lift, automating entire processes across a sales pipeline, automating multiple touches. And I don't mean just like an email campaign, but something where there are multiple complexities. Like, I really hate seeing a system built before each component has been. And those are very high lift, very high risk. And so then the impact is questionable. Even if we think it might be high, we need to take it slow.
I would say omni-channel, we know in B2B it does have high impact and it takes a massive amount of lift. So you've got high lift, high impact, those are your big wins. But then you've got things that are low lift, but they're incremental impact. And this is actually the second category that I advise people to go for. After they've done low lift, high impact, don't jump into the high lift, high impact, because you're going to have to mature into that. So move into your low lift, incremental impact. And that's things like your social media posting, your chat bots, setting up your reminders. If you're doing direct outreach well, this is where you can test the waters with some of that, because it's not that difficult to get it set up and to know, pretty rapidly if it's going to work or not.
Yeah, exactly. And, as we continue to go up, how much more effort does it take? What's the lift? There's always an opportunity cost. So I love that you're keeping everybody really focused on low lift, high impact, or incremental impact, because that's the thing that people don't realize is like they think automatically, I'm going to graduate to the big projects. Always an opportunity cost, because the more effort, the more team members, the more thought, the more resources, the more cost needed in something, it means all of those resources are not going to what? And fill in the blank, because that opportunity cost can be dangerous. And there are some projects that no matter how fun and sexy they are, never need to be on the list.
And you have to monitor and manage the risk anytime you're building automations. The more complex the automation, the greater risk. Oh, this thing broke. Who was in charge of making sure that thing didn't break? Who was monitoring? Who was checking on that? If that thing breaks, does it break everything else? If it breaks, how easy is it to fix? So I'm a huge fan of B2B marketing automation, but you need to start low and slow and build as you go.
Exactly. Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We would love to hear your excuse me. We would love to hear your specific examples, very specific questions. Even if you want to know what our opinion is about certain tools or very specific things that you're looking at, shoot those to us privately. Check us out on themarketingblender.com or hit us up in our direct messages. We would love to help you. So thank you. Please hit that like button and that subscribe button, and we will see you next week. Onward and upward.